Good Wednesday morning, neighbors. I want to make a statement here. I've worked with the OSI. Yep, that's kind of disturbing to know. But in all fairness, I've also had a paycheck from NASA, the Department of Energy, and about 7 Fortune 100 corporations on the planet. So, yeah, I just wanted to make it clear that, like I said, my work with the OSI is the operating system interface layer of your computer. That's the OSI I've worked with. That's how deep into your shit we are, right? So what is inside that OSI layer? What is all this secret? Well, the introduction to that OSI layer is called a MAC address, machine address code. Now there's a long history and story behind that acronym, that machine address code. But what it really is your address. If you're looking at this, you're on a machine. And inside that machine is a hard numbered address. Machine address code. It is the final address of information coming to you through the interwebs, no matter which direction it's in. So what does that mean? What does that number mean? You'll go find it. It's octet sets. It means without that address, that IP address that people speak to, that people say is what's giving you away or identifying you on the internet, isn't what's keeping track of you. It has not had much to do with you in a very long time. It is that machine address code, the MAC address inside the cell phone you're looking at. If you have a web-enabled TV, it has a MAC address, machine address code. It is like your mailing address if you have a home mailing address, only it's everywhere you go. This little address is following you around and logging stuff. It was never about the IP address, but that is part of the story, right? Because the true and false is rather tough to come to in this one. So any device you have has a MAC address. Total another video. Hours worth of conversations. So that is part of this OSI layer, operating system interface, that is managed by a global organization. These are the standards so that the software I write for this thing works on that thing over there. Now, I grew up in the days of assembled and compiled languages and could write in any layer of that back in the good old days. So life was different, and you had a reason to know the intricacies of network management, network submasks, subnets, restricted nets, how to manage network access. So that management has been at the MAC layer, device layer. Remember, you walked into the building, I had to register my devices in some buildings. They would let me have them, but they had to be registered. So anything that they did, unless I was good and wanted to be a spook, and they would have found that, would have had to have used either changing addresses to spoof, or lots of ways to go through it. So it's not easy to do. Don't fool yourself. So that MAC address, that OSI layer, operating system interface, that is a whole set of rules below what we normally talk about. But you hear about it, and then you hear acronyms related to it in other industries and other towers of nonsense out there. So there's your MAC layer. There's your MAC address. If you look into your MAC address, if you poke around in your phone, go into About in your phone settings, and you have an SD card, you'll notice that SD card has a MAC address, machine address code, meaning if I know it or can find it, I can address that device for better or for worse, right? This is the hacker master's course, I would suppose, because this topic, these layers, these sub-layers that actually control. Now, what does that MAC address mean? Why am I back to MAC addresses? Why am I talking about OSI? We're going to go a little bit into what's the name of that company that did all the data mining and tried to disappear, that rigged elections, that targeted voters so well that it worked better than they expected, that made mountains out of molehills and shadows out of shadows, is buried in that MAC address. There are a lot of, this is Google, this is Facebook, this is the internet, this is your telephone service provider watching everything that goes through, just because they might be able to sell you something or sell you to someone. Data is more valuable than oil now. So, welcome to OSI layers and spookware.